Hi.
Okay, so hi everyone. This is Matt from Crush, and I've got a couple folks joining me on this call today. I'd like to introduce Manu Michelini, all the way from Argentina. Hi, Manu.
Hi, how are you all?
Good. And we've also got on the call a good friend of mine from California, Jehan Hakimian. Jehan was not only makes wine himself in California, but was recently down with Manu and Manu's family in Argentina at their winery, helping them with the harvest just a couple months ago. And so he's on the call because he's a fascinating fellow and because he's going to help translate when necessary. So Manu, your family on the whole is a fascinating family of winemakers. As I understand it, both you, your father, your mother, and all or most of your uncles are all winemakers. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
And and to me,
my whole family is working in the wine world. So in my house, in my family meetings, is every time is a lot of wine around.
so how is it that your whole family got bit by the wine bug? I mean, got into winemaking.
That's a great story because my grandfather, the Michelini brothers that are four in the wine world, it isn't winemaker or anything related to the vineyards or to the wine. He's an engineer, but his father worked in a winery and in vineyards, just like working the vineyard and nothing else, not making wine, but working, helping. And he was such a bad experience in the wine world. So his wife, my grandfather's wife, said to her sons, my grandfather, you are not going to be anything related to wine. My grandfather said, okay, I don't like it, so it isn't nothing for me. So that generation do nothing with wine. But then the next generation, my father's generation, do everything with wine. was like in my father's house, nobody speaks about wine, but it's something like maybe blood, or maybe I don't know why or what. Matias was the first one. This my uncle and my godfather, who became into the wine world, studying and making interest in the wines and drinking and wine. Why this wine is different than this one, and there his work begins.
I think I've got a couple bottles of his here. Let me just grab them.
Okay.
Okay, so Matthias Michelini, your uncle, does some of the other wines that we're actually bringing in for this month's club, in fact. So this, the Cabernet Franc, the Pied Franc, and then the Parral, I think it's the Malbec Cabernet Bernarda blend. So yeah, that's great.
These two wines has a beautiful histories because the Parral was the first wine he made in his history, like a known project. Because in his life, Matthias worked for another wineries, big wineries, and when he decides to begin his own project, he said, okay, my first wine going to be this one, and that wine was Parral.
Jehan, I wanted to ask you, you were recently down visiting Manu and helping them with the harvest. And so I just wonder if you could give us a little bit of sort of like the outsider impression of coming to the winery for the first time. Maybe you just paint the scene a little for us.
I mean, I don't know if I would be the typical outsider. I mean, I went to high school in Argentina. I speak Spanish. And for me, it was like coming home. So it was very different, I think, of an experience in general. But that being said, of course, also being in the wine industry for a long time, making a little bit of wine here and there, and really coming to just not only to feel the new Argentina out, because I knew that they were really doing something special there already, but coming to kind of go back and rediscover an area that I really hadn't been. I got way more into Spanish wine, way more into Portuguese wine than I ever did in the wines that I started drinking. So it was really to rediscover Argentine wine and not just drink the stuff that I used to drink. So I wanted to see what was going on in the new Argentina. Most people are not doing what they're doing. They're doing something completely different. It's unique. It's its own thing, and it's really a much better interpretation of the terroir of that area of Valle de Uco than any other wines that I've been drinking. And I saw why. You know, I mean, they're working with indigenous yeast. They're not using a bunch of new oak. They're not, you know, making the same round tannin. You know, for me, a very, very good thing to see, because I've kind of felt like the story has been stale for a long time now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad to hear that you say that, because certainly the wines taste that way. I mean, they taste absolutely distinctive. Manu, I love the Semillon, a hugely tropical fruit profile coupled with almost like a salty side and like really delicious acids. And the triangle of that like bright fruit and hint of salt and like shimmering acid is such a delicious, mouth-watering combination. As much as I want to just keep drinking the Semillon, I think right now I better switch to the Malbec.
Right.
And okay, and
so that our global philosophy as family, Michelini Mufato, is use oak, because we ferment everything in oak and then we age in oak. But being like sure of which oak are we using, every tonellerie we buy, I have been before with the guys looking how they make the bats, to be sure of what we have in the winery. And the only thing I really don't know is the fermenting bats, because are prehistoric.
Yeah, I personally remember cleaning them a lot.
I think one of the first days that you arrived, I said to you, I need to clean this one.
Well, the first step of winemaking is cleaning all your tanks. That's for sure. So one of the things that drew us to this particular bottle, aside from the fact that it's just delicious, is that it had that notable high percentage of Cabernet Franc. You know, I think in the United States, Cabernet Franc is not what people think of when they think about Argentina. It's really Malbec only. But more and more, it seems that Cab Franc is starting to make a name for itself, at least in small ways, in Argentina. And certainly, you know, your guys' version is one of those. In fact, I've got one of your other broad family projects here, the Calcareo Tupungato Cabernet Franc. And this too is just an exceptional bottle. So I guess my question would be, you know, what is it that has drawn you to Cab Franc, and like why Cab Franc in Argentina, or why Cab Franc in the Gualtallari subzone?
Well, I think the Cab Franc is like really, I don't know if difficult is a word, but like if you put Cab Franc here in Argentina in really, really big of clay soils, or like this, when it's not high in the mountain soils, are like so big wines. And we don't want that. That's why I think in Gualtallari it works well, because our sandy and calcareous soils and cold weather is Gualtallari begins at 1,200 meters above the sea level. So the temperature there is really cold and the soils are poor. So that's what allows the Cabernet Franc to produce finesse. not a huge big wine like meat, because we want elegance in our not with our wines. We are looking for finesse, for elegance. For us, the Malbec maybe is a more plastic variety than the Cab Franc. With Jehan, we have talked a lot of this. Like the Cabernet Franc is Cabernet Franc. It's like with his suit, and that's it. It's Cabernet Franc. The Malbec is so malleable. Like that soil is so different. That soil is so different with that climate so different. The Cab Franc with a bit of good soils, like I said, is more or less the same. It's the typicity of Cab Franc. That it doesn't happen with the Malbec. Malbec maybe of high altitude is more austere, more going like maybe some Syrah of Northern Rhone, and if you go like some places down and clay soils, it's more like Bordeaux style. So flexible.
So Jehan, what Manu is saying there kind of it leads me into my last question for you. As a sort of short intro, this is one of the wines that
Manu hasn't seen that label yet.
Oh, you haven't? Oh,
no, I'm surprised.
This is a label to be reckoned with here. So this is I think some of the Crush folks will recognize it. It's this delicious sparkling Albarino. The label is called Los Chuchaquis. And Jehan and Ryan Sturm make this wine together, and it's delightful. But aside from Jehan's experience making wine in California, you're quite well known for your breadth and depth of experience when it comes to Iberian wines, Portuguese wines, Spanish wines, but then also you've traveled a lot throughout Europe. And everything that Manu is saying about his family's approach and the way he's thinking about these wines, say comparing them to Premier Cru or Village wines, it has at least some of a European flair. If not at the heart, they're taking some of those lessons of the old world, or so it seems to me. But I'm curious to hear what you might have to say. If you were to compare what some of these more interesting projects in Argentina are doing. Can you say a little bit about that?
I would hesitate to ever compare, anywhere in the Americas to anywhere in Europe. Just first off, it's so difficult to really compare these two places because of the climate and the soils and everything really that is involved. That being said, of course, with the more fresher versions of wines from South America, they come off, definitely more European because of the acid level. The perceivable acid levels in the wines are higher, and I think that's a breath of fresh air that the kind of new Argentina has been taking on. And this is reflected in the wines that they do in Michelini Mufato. Like clearly, I wouldn't say that they're trying to be European wines in any way. They're definitely Argentinian wines, but they're showing that freshness, acid, and the kind of lift that you would get in parts of the cooler parts of France or Spain.
Cool.
Thank you. Then I will pay you for that words.
Next time.
Right. Well, hey, I really appreciate both of you guys taking the time to get on the call and walk us through a couple things here. So Jehan, thanks very much there in California, and Manu coming to us from Argentina. Muchísimas gracias para conversar con nosotros.
Muchas gracias. So really thank you. For me it's exciting, and I'm nervous of talking in English. But
you did great.
No, but I'm really pleased of talking with you guys.
Good. Well,
super happy.
Well, hopefully we'll see you here in Alaska or down in Argentina. Whoever gets to the other first.
Both.
Both. Yeah.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Ciao.
Ciao.